Saffron Energy. Saffron Energy listed on the London Stock Exchange on the 24th of February. And we've been very, very successful in all the things we've done. So firstly, I'm going to tell you about Saffron, then I'm going to tell you about why we're in Italy and why we can make a lot of money, revenue, gas flow, cash flow in Italy, and then I'm going to tell you about our assets. So AIM ticker is SRON. We've got a market cap of about £10 million. We raised £2.5 million in February, and Italy is a place where you can put high margin, high cash flow natural gas fields into production very efficiently. We've got 3 assets, Bezzecca and Sant'Alberto, 4 assets if you include Sant'Alberto. Bezzecca and Sant'Alberto outside Milan, and Sant'Alberto and Silaro outside Bologna. Italy is an extremely good place to have natural gas. It is the 3rd largest gas consumer in Italy. It doesn't have any nuclear, and it only has a small amount of its own domestic production. Its main suppliers are Russia and all the problems that come with Russia, Libya, it's a civil war, and Algeria. So think about it this, your most reliable customer is supplier is Algeria. We're sitting there in the heart of the Po Valley of Italy. When you think about northern Italy, think more about southern Switzerland. It's the area of Italy where you have the highest, it's the 3rd highest industrial region in Europe. It's where all the top end manufacturers operate, and it is exactly the place you want to be supplying gas to. Let me tell you a little bit about the geology and the infrastructure. Most people don't know it, but the 2 largest oil fields in Europe are actually in Italy. The Po Valley, which is where we operate, used to be this inland sea, amazing sand, sedimentary deposits. The gas in the Po Valley is 99.9% methane. You need to do very, very little to it to actually take it through to essentially sales into the industrial, the consumer market. Eni, the giant international oil company, had a monopoly over the Po Valley. Had a monopoly right up until the early 2000s, and they had carte blanche for massive seismic coverage. They found a lot of gas fields that in today's prices are very profitable, but they were after the elephants and they left them behind for companies like us. They also drilled a lot of wells that were successful, and again, gas fields discovered, proven undeveloped gas, but leaving them to smaller companies such as ourselves to exploit. So huge database of seismic information, huge database of well information. And this is the most important thing, is northern Italy has a pipeline grid across all of the areas. If we want to put one of our gas fields into production, we go down about 2.5 kilometres with our wells. The gas comes up 2.5 kilometres, and literally in nearly every single gas field that we have, we're within 300 metres, 400 metres from a pipeline grid connection. The pipeline grid is owned by one of the largest, infrastructure players in Europe, Snam Rete Gas. We have complete regulatory access to that pipeline grid, and the pipeline grid is right in the centre of where the highest prices, not just in Italy, the highest prices in Europe for natural gas are. So if you want to actually sell natural gas and produce it, this is the #1 location in Europe. So what does Saffron Energy do? So we've got 2 gas fields in production. When we did the IPO, we only had 1. About literally 4 weeks, 6 weeks after we IPO'd, we had our second field, Bezzecca, into production. Production fields in Italy have, particularly onshore, have very high profit margins. The plants are fully automated. The gas, as I mentioned, is 99.9% methane, so you can go directly into the pipeline grid with no transportation costs, almost no labour costs aside from regular maintenance, and produce very, very good qualities of gas. We started off with existing reserves of 8.7 BCF, that's proven. We've got a lot of contingent resources, which with small investments we can convert into reserves. And I've got to tell you, we have a team that is very capable of very substantially increasing that reserve base through a combination of smart acquisitions and smart changes to what we're producing. What we listed with was a significant fixed asset portfolio. We had 4 production wells in place, downhole production equipment in place, 2 gas production plants that take out the water and make sure the gas is pure to go into the pipeline grid. And we just built, literally the month before the IPO, a 7-kilometre pipeline from our Bezzecca field to our Vitauba gas field. All of that connected into the Italian national grid day one. Successes to date: Bezzecca first gas in April. Next asset to come on will be Sant'Alberto, and working very quickly with that. And then we've got a few other assets such as Silaro and Vitauba that we think we'll be able to very rapidly increase production from as well. These are our reserves and contingent resources. I won't go through them in too much detail. This is where we're located. We've got Silaro just east of Bologna, Bezzecca just outside Milan. If you fly into Milan Linate Airport, we're literally a 20-minute drive. We're going to hold when are we going to hold that investor visit, Stefania? September, we're going to have an investor visit, so we'll get you all coming down to Italy. September's a great month. Sant'Alberto is the next gas field we'll put in production. That's just north of Bologna. This is the gas production profile that comes from the competent person's report in the aim and mission document from the IPO we did. The orange is Silaro. The competent person in their report when we IPO'd said in 2017 we'd be producing nothing from Silaro. The Silaro gas field is still purring along at 10,000 cubic metres a day of production. So we've gone through the 1P reserves, we've gone through the 2P reserves, and we're still producing from that field in the level we're producing from. We have some small investments that we can make, and that'll significantly increase production from Silaro, and bringing Sant'Alberto and the other fields into production is going to take us from about 1.6 million scuffs a day to over 4 million. So if all we did with our portfolio was to execute against the competent person's report in our aim and mission document, you'd see nearly 4-fold growth in our annual gas production. As I mentioned earlier, we have a team and we have knowledge of this hydrocarbon region, and we expect to deliver more than that for shareholders, so keep an eye out for those opportunities. This is Bezzecca. We listed, we got approval to put Bezzecca into production from the ministry, and also importantly from not 1 but 2 fire brigades. That took a bit of coordination, and we probably lost a couple of weeks on that, but we're up in production. That's Bezzecca when we successfully drilled it. To put Bezzecca into production, we built this 7-kilometre pipeline. It's got 2 strings, not 1, but we've got a pipe for Bezzecca 1, and we've put the second pipe in already for Bezzecca 2. We've tested it up to 62,000 cubic metres. We've got it up and running at currently 20,000, 25,000 cubic metres a day. We're making some modifications downhole, and we're going to take Bezzecca up to 30 to 35,000 cubic metres a day. which is good revenue, good cash flow, and that's going to be above our aim and mission document forecasts. A few pictures. This is some of the equipment we installed on the Bezzecca site. You won't be able to see this on site anymore because we've filled in the pipeline, but I just wanted to show you the two pipes that will allow quite a rapid expansion in Bezzecca production, and that's the existing Vitalba gas plant. So we're talking about a company that has hard physical assets to profitably produce gas. In terms of production, the Pliocene level A is currently producing 20 to 25,000 standard cubic metres a day. That is higher than we expected. The Miocene levels have been tested. What we're doing at the moment is just waiting for some downhole equipment which will install through June, and that'll allow us to take the whole field up above 30,000 cubic metres a day. The gas from all our fields is sold under this fantastic contract with Shell Italia, and that makes a big difference. One of the things we did is under that contract we were able to set the prices that we receive at prices above the current spot levels in Italy, and we're going to take advantage of those opportunities when they come up. But we're receiving 21, 22 euro cents per cubic metre, which, as I mentioned earlier, is probably the highest gas price in Europe at the moment. We're looking at taking Bezzecca to around 2.1 million of cash flow, and that together with the other assets, we're going to build a significant cash-producing energy company. This is Sant'Alberto. This one's the next off the blocks to add to our portfolio of 2 production fields. This is number 3. This is the Sant'Alberto well. So the well's been drilled, the well's completed, so it's got all the downhole production equipment in it. What we need to do is to connect the well to a gas plant. We have a modular gas plant lined up to do that, and then we need to connect the gas plant to the Italian national grid, and we're just going through the mechanics of making sure that all of that is done efficiently. Low cost modular plant, well already in place. That well cost about I think 3.5 million euros. So relatively straightforward steps to get Sant'Alberto, Santa Magdalena into production in the 4th quarter of this year. Silaro, as I mentioned, the competent person thought that Silaro had 0 1p reserves. We're still producing. I think we've produced the 2p and we're on to the 3p. So the current production level is steadily contributing to our revenues. We've been able to take the total production of the Saffron Energy group from 10,000 at Silaro to over 30,000 cubic metres a day. And when we kick up the production rates at Bezzecca in the back end of June, we'll go over 40,000. So think of that 4-fold increase in production rates 3 months after the IPO. We've got a very large gas plant at Silaro. Silaro's been an incredibly profitable producer historically, probably generated about 45 million euros of revenue and generated about 23 million euros of cash flow. So very profitable historic operation. Some very clear things we can do to significantly increase production from Silaro going forward. And we're working on that as we speak. All of this and what we need to do is in the competent person's report. Just check the 6 minutes. Why invest? So the Po Valley of Italy is an extremely lucrative place to have natural gas fields. You've got high prices, you've got domestic production being able to be sold very easily through an existing national grid, and we have an extremely good customer in the form of Shell. We have current production, so Saffron Energy is a production company and a production growth company. We're not a company that has a a large exploration license for which money needs to be spent to try and work out where the targets are, and has a long time frame to get into cash flow and profitability. We're actually doing that now. I mentioned the Shell offtake. We effectively get the wholesale price at the wellhead, which makes the operation profitable. We've got an extremely good team. They know the Po Valley like the back of their hand. Giorgio Bertuzzi, who is our main exploration and development manager, he was the guy at ENI whose job was to look throughout that seismic database and throughout that well database and work out, when ENI was forced to break up the monopoly, where ENI had left a lot of gas in the ground. So we're going to be able to not only take production from that 1.5 million scuffs a day to over 4, but we're going to be able to bring into the portfolio other assets that further boost that growth. We're going to be very disciplined on production and cash flow. We're not going to get into a situation where we take large cash flows from our production and blow them in a high-risk exploration well. That's a very different management philosophy to a lot of oil and gas companies. So we're very well positioned. We've ticked all the boxes that we said we'd achieve post-IPO. Sant'Alberto is next at the back end of this year. We're going to be able to do some very interesting things in terms of boosting production from some of our other assets, and we think we're extremely well positioned for investors to follow the company. Thank you.
Questions, anybody? Gentleman just here.
What is your relationship, Saffron Energy, what is your relationship with SRON Trust?
Sound. So Sound Energy has been an operator in Italy. Prior to its recent investments in Morocco, it was 100% Italy. We don't have any direct cross-shareholdings or anything like that. We know the Sound management team very well, and I think we're probably producing quite a lot more than Sound at the moment in terms of production. I'll have to check the numbers.
A lot more.
But we've got a good working relationship with them, and we want them to be very, very successful in Italy, and they want us to be very successful in Italy.
Because from your slides, at Sant'Alberto, the 100% ownerships belongs to them.
Well, I didn't see that one, but that plant is at Casa Tiberi, which is a modular plant that's producing from one of the Sound fields that will move across to our Sant'Alberto field. Was that the question?
No. The issue is about the ownership of Sant'Alberto and Silaro. From your slides, from what you presented to us, you said ownership 100% Northern Italia. Can you see that?
Oh, so Saffron Energy is the PLC listed on the stock exchange, SRON. 100% of it has a 100% owned subsidiary, North Sun Italia, which is the operating company in Italy. So Saffron Energy owns 100% of North Sun Italia.
You spun Saffron and North out of another of your businesses, didn't you, I think? Is
yes, right? So there's a company in Australia called Po Valley Energy. We took the production assets of Po Valley Energy, which were held in North Sun Italia, put them into Saffron Energy and listed on the London Stock Exchange.
Okay, Michael. I must declare I'm a shareholder.
Good.
And in fact, I've been in discussion with a few other shareholders, and they've asked me to ask a few questions for you.
Good. I'll let these guys moderate.
Yeah.
Bulletin boards, I think.
I'll try and just stick to maybe. First of all, it's a little bit unclear for shareholders what the debt position is with the company. if you want to explain how, when the company was spun off, it's got certain debt obligations or not?
So Saffron Energy PLC has 420,000 euros of loans to shareholders. They were provided by 3 shareholders as part of the exercise to get the company listed, and those loans are lent to Saffron Energy.
I thought there was about €500,000 due soon and 500,000 later at some point, or not? Or is that?
No.
I'm misreading the account.
So to do the IPO, there was some funds advanced to allow us to finish the Bezzecca pipeline and invest some of the capital. So at the time of the IPO, approximately 400,000 of, if you like, IPO bridging loans were repaid. So they've all been fully repaid. In terms of the long-term outstanding debt, it's 420,000 euros, which, for that's about 2 months' revenue at the moment.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. This kind of ties in with this a little bit. How do you intend? I didn't see anything up there about Bezzecca 2 actually at this moment. You talked about next of Sant'Alberto and Silaro. I think wasn't there intention to develop Bezzecca 2 as well?
Yes.
And the general question was really Bezzecca 2 and Sant'Alberto. What's the general policy in terms of funding the well development, which is very expensive to do? What's the method you're intending for the funding for those developments?
Okay, so the IPO was organised and structured to allow us to put Bezzecca in production and do Sant'Alberto at the end of this year. In terms of Bezzecca 2, the plan, and this was very clearly set out in the aim and mission document, was to get Bezzecca 1 up and running. So that's Bezzecca 1, and we're using one of these pipes to go into the Vitalba gas plant. So that's happening at the moment. What we want to do for approximately 12 to 18 months is monitor the performance of Bezzecca 1, and then we'll make the decision as to when we drill Bezzecca 2. Bezzecca 2 is probably a €3 million well. It has the advantage of significantly increasing the production from the Bezzecca field, but we want to get some steady state production from Bezzecca from doing that. The advantage when you are a gas production revenue and cash production company is you do have degrees of freedom in terms of how you choose to fund a €3 million capital expenditure, and we'll evaluate whether that's a bond or a loan facility, or whether it's perhaps a joint venture or some kind of mechanism by which we achieve a substantial boost in the overall gas flow and cash flow of Saffron Energy, but we also make sure that we minimise any dilution to shareholders.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly that's what the shareholders, I'm speaking in my own opinion, obviously, a little bit, but that's what shareholders are thinking about now, and particularly the last month and a half, the share price has been sliding quite a lot, mainly because it seems very little volume and not so much interest. It's all a little bit puzzling for shareholders a bit, but I suppose, I think we've kind of asked this question, you kind of answered it, but is there going to be any future?
Dilution is not always bad for a shareholder, I should say. Yeah. Dilution is not always bad for a shareholder.
I understand that, yeah, not always.
No, if you're putting an asset in for dilution, it's positive sometimes. So,
take the point.
Yeah.
So in the IPO, we funded the company to achieve Silaro is already in production. We add Bezzecca, we add Sant'Alberto, that boosts growth. We've got internal cash flows. I'd like to get some of that cash flow back to shareholders, and then I'd like to work out how we increase the cash flow further by adding Bezzecca 2 to the production rates.
When you say get some cash flow back to shareholders, is there a policy one day for dividends at some point?
boards of directors have to look at the accounts and say, do we have enough cash to pay for dividends? I like that previous presentation where the gentleman was from Equity Trust was focused on companies that pay dividends. I'd love it if we could get into your portfolio one day. But I think I'll have to get our earnings to substantially more than we have at the moment. I can't, we're focused on production, not burning money in exploration wells. I think we can, to use your point, we can grow the size of the cake, and every now and again that will require a small amount of extra capital to do that. We're very conscious of doing it in a way which is maximises the return to shareholders.
Okay, I think I'll let some other people.
Any other questions, anybody? I got some. Italy, notoriously difficult for permitting, licensing. You managed to crack that, unlike Sound, who've troubled. I know they've got Badile now, but they're taking a long time to get their permits. What is your plan in Italy? Are you just going to stay focused on Italy, or will you look at other European countries for further exploration and production, or are you going to be very much Italy-centric?
Look, we probably have the best track record in terms of moving through the approvals and getting these gas fields up and running in a disciplined and relatively fast-track way. We brought Saffron Energy to the market at a point in time where things were approved, and so we can move the assets into production. We have a really good team with extremely good across-the-board oil and gas, but particularly natural gas experience. We see a number of opportunities inside Italy, but also outside Italy. I don't think we're going to be going down for $10 million or $20 million wells in Morocco or something like that. We're going to be very disciplined on our capital structure. But we can see ways, particularly in this $50 oil market, where we can substantially grow the production and earnings capacity of the company with a focus on natural gas production.
And this is not a trick question. James Parsons, who we know very well, 3.5 years ago asked him the question, what is your outrageous ambition? He said the share price at the time was 7p. He said, I wanted to be £1 and be a mid-cap company, which he achieved. I asked him 2 months ago the same question. He said, where would you be in 3 years? He said, I won't be at Sound, because he'd have sold the business, and he'd be a large cap. Have you got an outrageous ambition for Saffron? Where do you see the future for current investors and new investors in a 3-year time scale? Where would you like to position the company?
Well, look, we have a 3-year objective to get to 4.5 million scuffs a day of gas production. I see no reason why, with the team we've got and the other expertise, we can't get to 20, 30 million scuffs a day of gas production, and that translates into, I guess, what James has achieved, which is a large-scale, mid-cap, London Stock Exchange listed company. Probably the difference, and the Morocco assets will come, but the difference is we're generating the gas and the cash now, we're growing the gas and the cash now, and I think with that focus on production and cash flow and getting the money back to shareholders, we'll be able to achieve a lot of things very quickly with Saffron Energy.
I suppose listing in London, there's an opportunity to raise cash. If you decide to go for something bigger, you've got an opportunity to raise cash through different capital markets or shareholders.
Yeah, well, look, we're not planning anything like that, but we absolutely see London as a much more natural market for listing for a whole variety of reasons, both inside Italy and also outside of Italy, looking into Italy. Italy is very much in vogue. We're seeing approvals move through much more quickly. We're seeing opportunities to grow in Italy appear more quickly, and I think there's a very good buzz, and I think we have the management team, the connections to really grow this base, and natural gas in Italy is the preferred fuel.
And there's time for one more question, if anybody's got one. No? Michael, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks.